Are you thinking about moving to Belmont, Massachusetts? I've lived and visited Belmont my whole life, and in this video, we're going to share with you the top 8 things you should know about Belmont, Mass before your relocation here. I'm Jane. I'm a realtor in Wellesley, Massachusetts.
And I'm Dee Dee, and I'm also a realtor in Wellesley, Massachusetts.
And please subscribe as we're putting out new videos each week, and our channel is all about helping buyers make informed decisions about what community is the best for them to move to in the MetroWest area of Boston. So let's dive in. So the top 8 things to know about Belmont. The first thing you need to know is that Belmont has outstanding public schools. It also has a very prestigious private boys middle and high school known as Belmont Hill, which is absolutely gorgeous. But let's talk about public schools. U.S. News and World Report has Belmont's schools rated as number 13 in the state of Mass, and niche.com gives us an A+ rating for Belmont. And here's something kind of interesting about the way they've structured their elementary, middle, and high schools. There are 4 elementary schools that are K through 3. And then there's one school for the whole town for kids in grades 4 through 6, one for kids 7 and 8, and then one high school. As experienced parents, there's good news and bad news about that. My first thought was that could be a little limiting for your high school student who's been with all the same kids since they were 9. Yeah. But as Dee Dee pointed out, what'd you say about the ratios of elementary school?
I think they have a 15-to-1 ratio. So the good news is that the way that they're dividing it up, they do have very good resources for those students. And it looks like they're going to a new school more often, right, than the schools that are traditionally elementary through 5th or middle school 6 through 8. So at least they are getting some changes, and I think that has to do with their resourcing as well.
And I think smaller schools are, of course, good for elementary school students, the younger elementaries.
And I thought it was interesting because they have about the same number of students as we do in Wellesley. We have 5 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. So they actually are subdividing the kids up a little bit different with the same number of students. So it's just a different kind of model.
Let's talk about the convenient location. Belmont is just across the river from Cambridge and Boston, and it is surrounded by Watertown, Belmont, and Arlington. So if you are commuting to Boston, it's super convenient. You can drive in 25 to 30 minutes. We just checked the time even on a rainy afternoon. It's super convenient on the commuter rail because you can be in North Station in about 15 minutes. And if you are commuting to MIT or somewhere in Cambridge, Belmont might be a really great bet for you.
Yeah, most definitely. The town is absolutely beautiful. It has so much charm.
So much. It is such a pretty town center.
I love gorgeous.
Yeah, I love their town hall. And anyway, let's talk a little bit more about those buildings.
All right. Yeah. They have a lot of historical significance, the buildings in Belmont. One thing that I noticed the first time I ever went there, and then many times since showing houses, etc., lots of mansions in Belmont. This was a very prestigious area. Interestingly, there are 3 historical districts in this size of a town. There is Common Street, which I'm going to have you talk a little bit about.
Actually, I showed a beautiful house there this March of 2025 that was on the market that was built in 1750. But we'll dive into the details on that one a little bit later in our real estate section.
Okay, that's great. There's also Pleasant Street, which is another beautiful, beautiful historical location. And then there's the Thaddeus Frost District, which I think is really kind of cool. Being from down south, I love everything revolutionary.
And we're history geeks, both of us.
Yes, we are. And a ton of it around here, that's for sure. But Thaddeus Frost, his grandparents were Revolutionary War figures. His grandfather was very well known. And as you guys probably know, a lot of the Revolutionary history is based out of just commonplace people. A lot of them were just farmers, as was Thaddeus Frost. There's a district named for him. He was one of the first people to come settle the area as a big farm. And then, of course, now it's all these beautiful mansions and so forth. But it used to be considered the country, right? Going up there from Boston, it would have been considered the country. But it's absolutely gorgeous, lots of charm and just amazing architecture in Belmont.
Another great thing about Belmont is the natural space, outdoor space, and activities. You're so close to the Charles River, which winds its way through town and separates you from Boston and Cambridge. You'll see rowers go by from the high school and the local colleges. My kids have been rowing there forever. Also, there's some really nice trails, some which take you into Boston and Cambridge, such as the Charles River Pathway, which is about 3 miles. So an easy level 1, but just to be so close to Boston, lots of green space, and really beautiful. Oh, one thing we should talk about, we didn't even have this in our numbers. There's a very famous psychiatric hospital located in Belmont called McLean.
Yes.
And it's famous. They have beautiful grounds. And then right near it now, some land got sold. There's like this beautiful development of townhomes near there. So which leads us to our next thing. So would you call this urban kind of environment, Dee Dee, or would you say it's a little more sleepy?
I would definitely say that it's more sleepy. It to me feels like a true bedroom community. So there's not, in the town itself, there's not just a tremendous number of options for restaurants or nightlife or things like that. But what's so wonderful about it is that you are really just right around the corner from that with Cambridge, Boston, as we just said a few minutes ago. You can get there within 15 minutes on the Fitchburg line. So you can certainly access all of those things, but if you're looking for something a little bit quieter at night after work, that's going to be a perfect place for you to go.
Yeah, maybe just a trip to Rankatories for ice cream. My sister, who lives in Arlington, would always be taking her kids to Rankatories in Belmont. Number 6, beautiful views. One of the cool things about Belmont, there is indeed a hill, just like the high school that's named after Belmont Hill, where all the beautiful mansions are. And Route 2 cuts right through town, which can whisk you to Boston. And there's absolutely gorgeous views as you come down the hill towards Cambridge. And as Dee Dee said, coming from the south, she just fell in love with the beautiful autumnal colors when it's foliage season. One of the coolest things is there's a very large Mormon temple where Mitt Romney used to take his family when he lived in Belmont. Absolutely stunning building, and you see it just the spire rise out of this little neighborhood. So it's really quite extraordinary.
It's very pretty. I used to commute, actually, Jane. I reverse commuted to Lexington from the Back Bay. I used to get a little aggravated with traffic, etc. But once those colors came out on the trees on Route 2, I was like, never mind, this is actually a nice little commute. So that's certainly for those who are working outside of the city. Reverse commute is something we'll do another video on.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Yeah, because I had no traffic half the time, and it was just a really convenient thing to do. Yeah.
So number 7, let's talk about real estate. Definitely an area with higher prices, similar to some of the other towns we cover. Yes, we just have expensive real estate in Greater Boston. The median sale price in 2024 was $1.715. We just took a look just today, a snapshot of May in 2025 to see if how the inventory looked. There is nothing on the market under $1 million in a single family. There are a couple condos even under $500,000. So there's a diversity of housing stock. So that's the good news. But in general, you're seeing the majority of the listings are over 1.5, maybe 1.5 to 2.5. And then we're going to show you some really high-end homes shortly.
And Jane, that's gotten more and more common, hasn't it? Just over the last several years.
Yes.
The further out you go, the more likely you're able to get that single family that you're looking for, because it's so competitive without any inventory the closer to the city. So it's really not unlike that. But the median house price has definitely gone up in Belmont.
We're going to take a look at a couple listings, and we did it a little differently this time. Usually we look at medium, low, and high-priced homes, but we're going to kind of look by area. We thought that would be fun. So let's dive into that. So let's take a look at the house I mentioned earlier that was built in 1760 at 325 Common Street that I just showed in March. It was on the market for $1,750, and as you can see, it sold at that price. This couple had bought it and done this amazing renovation, and they were going to stay in it forever and got relocated to out of the area and had to put the house on the market. So it's a nice lot with room for a 2-car garage, which is unusual at this price point. So it's very close to the center of town on Common Street, which is a busier road, as most antique homes are. But as you can see, there is a 2-car garage behind it. So it's a generous lot. They had done so many updates. So this is an addition, actually, with this vaulted ceiling. And then they had this beautiful covered porch outside. They had replaced the windows. They had raised the main ceiling. So they had added all this recessed lighting. Of course, that was not a thing. Because one of the things about homes built in 1760 is they kept the ceiling height very low because they didn't want to heat space wasted above your head, and it kept them warm and toasty. As you can see, they restored these old oak floors, but this is a new tile floor. And this is the original living room. So it has this antique mantle, which they had reclaimed this piece of wood and had it strapped and mounted to the wall, and a very old fireplace. It has these beams exposed. It was super cool, but honestly, I love old homes, and it felt very old house to me. some natural exposed brick. Systems were all updated. It had, new heating system, newer roof, updated kitchen. But again, there's the top of the fridge. And as you can see, not a lot of space up to the ceiling. And this room was an extension, probably very hard to heat, not a lot of room in the walls for insulation. I mean, these are the practical things we think about these days. And here's a nice view of that 3-season porch. And upstairs, the bedrooms were just beautiful, more beams. This had a gorgeous fireplace, which they were not using. This family had young children, so most likely not going to use the fireplace in the bedroom. Painted, wide boards on the floor, slanted ceiling with old-fashioned strapping, and you can see the little, I would call that a gizmo, whatever you call the thing to attach the beam to the ceiling. And here's a view of the rear and a nice big yard. One thing about these antique homes is they're very close to the street. So again, owners then didn't want to have to shovel or, plow for their horses and their deliveries. So they would put the house close to the street. So the garage is set back a bit, but it was a real treat to get to see this house. The next house we're going to talk about that was a median price sale in 2024 was 22 Whitcomb Street. So this was on a much smaller lot. So now we're looking at a lot that's under 3,500 square feet, which is super tiny. This is an example of the incredible willingness of buyers to bid over on homes where they perceive value. This house was listed for $975, and it says very clearly, captivating potential. So that means here in Waverly Square, this great house, but it needs updates. It's 1,800 square feet, but it needs work. And the market drove it up to $1.3 million. So this is for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. And let's take a look at some of the pictures. Waverly is an area very close to Watertown, which is a little bit lower price points. Schools are not as good as Belmont. So when you get over to the Watertown side, you will see lower prices. And obviously the houses are much closer together, much more of an urban vibe than the last home I'm going to show you. Brimming with character, lots of charm, nice French doors, but some groovy wallpaper that needs to come down. This is an older chandelier. Kitchen, most people are going to just want to start over and put in a new kitchen. But even at 1.3, it would be a good buy to do that and put in a new kitchen as opposed to paying over 1.5 for something that had a new kitchen. And here we are upstairs, lots of carpet. Now, it could very well have hardwood floors under all these carpets. And we have some tricky ways to tell. So sometimes we can tell from the era that the home was built. And here we are up on the 3rd floor. So this obviously nicely finished space. Oh, look, a Kennedy sticker. I wonder which Kennedy that is. And a little bit of a loft situation here, but not a lot of lighting. Not a lot of outlets. So all of those things would need to be updated, electrical. And here's the beautiful lavender bathroom with tasteful gold accents. So again, probably time for a facelift, but a nice old cast iron tub. I would keep that tub, change the tile, change the floor, and maybe swap out the vanity and the Hollywood lights on the mirror, but the bones are there, and I would keep that old tub because they don't make them like that anymore. Now here we are on the lower level, which has a groovy bar from the 70s and drop ceiling. The space is here, and I see the potential here for this house, so I'm glad that the market rewarded. Got to get rid of that blue sink. And here's a bonus kitchen in the basement, which is here's a view of your backyard off the deck and room for a table and chairs, but definitely close to your neighbors all around. We always like to show you what happened with a high-end home. One of our tricks as realtors is we always want to check all statuses and all dates for a particular address if you saw that it sold under asking. Here is 68 Longmeadow Road, which sold for $3,550, and it sold in 89 days. But that's not the full story. This was listed in March of 2024, but look here. You can see that if it was built in 2023, so it was a new build. They listed it in 2023 for $4.5 million. It was on the market for 49 days. They canceled and relisted it at $4,395 in September of 2023. It sat 457 days, and then it was relisted for $3,995 in March of 2024. So it's a long time for a builder to carry a house, though it may not have been completely done when he listed it in the beginning. But it ultimately sold for $3,550. So this is an example of how savvy buyers are now. Buyers have access to all this information. They are not shy about overbidding like we just saw in the last house, but they are not shy about letting a seller wait if they do not perceive value. It is a gorgeous, luxurious home, over almost 5,000 square feet plus a finished basement. It's on over a half acre of land, which is a lot. Absolutely beautiful and contemporary. But for whatever reason, the market did not recognize the value that the builder and the owner had. So as you can see, everything's obviously going to be 2023, first owner, beautiful, tasteful kitchen, what we'd expect to see in a $3 to $4 million house. I love that the pantry is back. I love that they've got this pantry tucked around the corner. And actually, I have a buyer who actually they can only spend $3 million. They'd love this house. I love the open stairway, lots of natural light, and I love the contrasting walls. So they did an absolutely beautiful job. I like this wet bar with the beverage center in the contrasting marine blue. Very pretty. Look at this. Fun storage under the stairs. So definitely a thoughtful design, beautiful trim. And look at these really high windows. So that's going to give you a lot of natural light, but also privacy. So you don't have to worry about getting window treatments to cover the whole wall if you put them right here, for example. And a gas, actually, it's an electric fireplace, also something we're seeing trending as we try to get away from the use of fossil fuels in New England. Now, this picture makes me notice a couple things. There's this cool lighting right above the bed, which is a nice detail, but I'm also looking out the window and thinking, I'm in a neighborhood of homes that are not of the same level and value as the one I'm in. So that's an example of why homes might not get the top dollar just from the neighborhood they're in. Gorgeous closet. I have nothing but nice things to say here. Trend we've seen the last couple of years of these floating cabinets, vanities with just open underneath, easy to clean, very contemporary. Now the back of the house has some nice trees behind it. Good closet, ensuite. Another floating vanity. They did a beautiful job staging this house too. Another floating vanity, big tub, nice laundry room. It comes with washer dryer. Now we're in the lower level, so very cool space. Looks like it has good ceiling height. So there's a gym, there's a TV room, there's another bath. So an absolutely gorgeous house. Just for whatever reason, the market did not respond. So if you're thinking about moving to Belmont, Massachusetts, or any of the surrounding towns, please reach out, as Dee Dee and I would love to help you. And we've helped many buyers find homes here who found us right here on YouTube. So please remember to subscribe, and thank you as always for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.